back to the Schmitter 100 Acre Woods. Out here at the sawmill shack again. So essentially what we're working on today is getting some more boards cut for the chicken coop. So talked to him and he's working on getting us some plans as far as like what size boards he needs. So one thing he needs is some 18-foot boards. So our mill per Woodmizer, it can do 18 foot, like 6 inches. I have this one on the mill, and I cut it exactly 18 foot. It's not the greatest looking log, but it's one of the ones we had that was longer than 18 foot. We could square cut both ends so that we had, you know, kind of a true representation of what 18 foot would be. So, as you can see, I got, I don't know, maybe 3 inches in there, maybe 4, before the blade touches there. And then whenever I trolleyed this down without cutting, just to kind of see what it would do, I didn't quite get the entire blade on the outside of this. It would cut through, so the teeth were out, but the entire blade wasn't exited. So that's with 18 foot. Exactly. That end's just a little crooked, but not too bad. So I'm not 100% sure whether getting there 18 foot 6 inches. I don't know if we took the bumpers, so each side has these bumpers on there, so it's just like a little piece of metal, some rubber, and they just pin on. So we have this one on there. We're gonna do kind of a test with it, just to kind of run some boards. It's not too big, just so we'll be able to kind of maneuver it, see how that goes, and see what kind of results we get out of it. So have that as kind of our test for the 18 foot pieces. And he needs those are going to be like his rafters for his. I think he's doing 4 foot on center for those, so he'll need I think it was right around 16 or something like that. So gonna need several of those. I think he's doing 2x8s for those, but again, he's supposed to get us kind of a complete list, and we'll kind of get those checked off. Up to this point, we've just been doing the 1x6s that will be like the siding, but in 2 to 3 weeks, he's having concrete poured for the floor. Because it's part chicken coop and part kind of storage and that kind of thing. So he's going to go ahead and pour a floor on that. So he wants us to kind of start getting some of the building material together, which is fine. So going to get kind of a list from them on what they want first, and then start milling that. So last night, I don't have any footage of it, but we got this other poplar home, and it's a pretty big piece here. So it's big enough that the 62 isn't super happy about picking it up on the front end. So it's got to be pretty close to 4,000 pounds. I believe it's only 16 foot long, maybe 17. And it's about 25 by 26 and a half. So it's a pretty decent size. Got going there. Pretty straight. Definitely with how big it is, so we'll be able to get quite a bit of 2x material out of this. So probably turn this in some 2x8s, and I don't know if he needs 2x10s or not, but this would be a good one to kind of get those out of. And again, we'll start cutting, and kind of depending on what we get, once we get it into a cant, will kind of help determine what exactly we can get out of it. So so we have this poplar. We have some red oak, which, I mean, red oak is good building material. It's going to be really strong. The beams, if you watch the video about the beams, we made some beams with that. So it's going to be really strong stuff. It's just going to be really heavy, weight-wise. So, if you have some big pieces of that, you're definitely going to need a machine or something to kind of move those around or put them in place. Just a lot denser, a lot heavier than the poplar. Alright, so typically we have a little bit more room between the blade and the log before you get going, but
here, trying to get as much board on there as possible and get started right away. We have a fan that's been going in there to try to help some of this heat we've had, get that moved out of the way. This is a pretty knotty log, so end up not having the best boards out of it, but able to salvage a little bit, and it will serve our purpose for this test. That first pass we did, really just trying to get some of these knots and everything that are sticking up out, and then we'll do another pass and be able to salvage most of that board. So there you can see we have a little bit of room between the log and the blade. So in theory we could scooch everything where it was just about touching the blade. So one nice thing, whenever we got this all mounted to the ground in that video, got everything set so we knew for sure whenever we went to the full extent of the mill that we wouldn't hit our building at all, so we have confidence in that. So here you can kind of see, we don't actually exit the log whenever we get to the end of that cut right there. The teeth do, but the entire blade does not. So you can't actually go up and return until we take that top log off. But we do kind of do that for the rest of these, and then just getting these cleaned off and trying to get what we can out of this. Logs this size are actually, like the diameter of it, are actually pretty nice to work with. They're easy to turn, and you're not fighting it quite as bad. The length is a little bit of an issue just because it's kind of in under the mill, or it's right there at the edge. So just have to kind of watch and make sure that as we turn, you don't make contact with anything. So with our current setup, we really need another clamp a little bit further down the log to better secure it on that far end, kind of away where I'm standing. We have 3 right up close to each other, so we have 2 of the bigger ones and a smaller one in between. And for, I'd say, 90% of our boards, it's sufficient, because we don't typically do things much longer than like 16 feet is where you kind of start to need to have that other clamp. But on these 18s, you know, it'd be nice to have one kind of down here toward the end, but we make do. We do have an upright there, so it does at least hold it kind of square. So once we get to camp, we can start cutting boards out of it and just try to maximize what we get.
Piece, we had lots of scrap just because it was kind of weird looking. And not super symmetrical, so I have quite a bit of scrap. Got 2 and a little piece down there in the bottom that are 2 inches thick, and we still have to cut, like with the table saw, an edge on it. It's kind of nasty, got some spots in it, but have that. And we have 3 2 by 8 by 18s, or 3 of them that we got from that one log. So not optimal log, but proved that we could do the 18s. It wasn't too bad, and got some boards out of it. We should be able to get a 2 by 8 out of that one, 2 by 6 out of that one, and then that bottom one's a little short. It had a nasty end on it, so we ended up cutting it off. It's only about 10 feet long.
So I'll go ahead and deposit this stuff over on the log rack. got what I could on there, and then just put the other stuff over to the side. And then go ahead and get this next one loaded up. Kind of see the loading process for a long log like that. Pretty fine margins on each side as far as kind of getting it on. And right now we need to put a little bit more dirt or gravel on the right hand side to kind of get that raised up so we're not at an angle. So before we get going on that next one though, do have a note of we changed the blade. So you can kind of see whenever the saw either starts to work hard to get through a log, or you know, you just start getting wavy cuts, kind of is an indicator of needing to change that blade. And then the belts that are right underneath can kind of end up getting a little bit of sawdust and everything built up on them, so I try to get those cleaned off as well. Having two people really helps getting the blade on, just to help get everything lined up and guided. And you just get it slipped on both sides, tension it up. We typically rotate it by hand a couple times just to make sure that, you know, it's kind of riding where it should. On these longer logs, we'll note that we have to pick up the saw head a little bit more just so we don't hit the debarker. And with a big log like this, I kept the tractor close so that if it wanted to roll, it would come back to the fork. So we've got that log loaded up and ready to go for the next time we cut. So continue watching the Schmitter 100 Acre Woods, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.